what you're really saying to people is that your view is less valuable because you have not experienced what I've experienced. And that is an identity argument, that's a character argument, that's not a rational political argument that can actually be taken on in any way. It's more of a cudgel and a club than it is an attempt to.
You guys know I love these moments when conservative thinkers go head-to-head with the woke establishment, especially when it happens under the bright lights of a congressional hearing. And this clip, absolute gold. We're about to watch Ben Shapiro get grilled by Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett over the concept of white privilege, a term that has completely warped our political discourse. She treats it like an unquestionable societal truth, something beyond debate. But what she gets in return is a razor-sharp, rational breakdown of why the term itself actually shuts down honest discussion. Ben's argument is simple, powerful, and spot on. He's willing to confront real, specific instances of racism, but he correctly calls out white privilege as a vague, identity-based weapon used to end conversations rather than advance them. This exchange is a philosophical win for anyone who believes in individual responsibility over group labels. You're about to see a masterclass in separating principle from propaganda. Before we dive into the full reaction, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments. Do you think white privilege is a useful concept or a tool to silence debate? Let's get into it.
I had a conversation with Rachel Lazar, who's done some work, a Jewish American woman who's done some work on this area, as well as having extensive conversations with Dr. Greg Parks of Wake Forest University, who's also talked quite a bit about critical race theory. And it's my understanding that white privilege is not telling individuals that they cannot speak, but it is a term for societal privilege that individuals have as a benefit of their white skin. And I don't think that, and I think universities would be remiss to then say that because you're white, you're not allowed to say anything that's critical of white people. I didn't know that white privilege actually went into that sphere. My understanding is it's just, and the issue is that white privilege makes people uncomfortable to talk about the societal privilege that they have.
Well, to me, what I say on campuses all the time is if you want to cite instances of racism that we can all find and fight together, that's something that I'm more than willing to stand next to you and fight, because that's obviously stuff that we should fight together. But when you just say that there is a white privilege out there in the ether and that by dint of birth your skin color generates for you an advantage, what you're really saying to people is that your view is less valuable because you have not experienced what I've experienced. And that is an identity argument, that's a character argument, that's not a rational political argument that can actually be taken on in any way. It's more of a cudgel and a club than it is an attempt to open a discussion.
Well, I think it's a demonstrable evidence that through society's demographics that being white has societal privileges that being black does not. But
we can talk about how that manifests, because that's
I'm also interested in what you just said now, is that you would stand next to anyone who has this. So, Mr. Shapiro, my question to you is, for Ms. Dunston, the tying the noose around the campus and writing messages that target African American young students, would you consider that hate speech, and then would you stand next to her and fight for her?
As I say, this is the first time hearing about it, honestly, but
really,
yeah. But from hearing about it, maybe it's local. I mean, I'm from LA. But in any case, I'm more than happy to stand alongside her and fight whatever group was responsible for this. Not only more than happy. I mean, you're talking about the alt-right. Again, I was the #1 target of anti-Semitic harassment from the alt-right last year. So I'm more than happy to do all that. And I think there's one more distinction that has to be made. When we talk about cases like Taylor's, they're horrific, and the administration is siding with Taylor. The administration is doing the right thing by Taylor, or trying to do the right thing by Taylor, as they should be. And I think that we need to make a distinction between cases where the administration is actively participating in the suppression of speech and cases in which the administration is trying to do the right thing in order to punish people for application of crime.
Gentlemen.
Wow. Every single time, Ben Shapiro proves why he's one of the most intellectually honest and devastating debaters in the political arena. Congresswoman Plaskett came in armed with a philosophical framework honestly, a textbook critical race theory framework, and Ben dismantled it piece by piece by appealing to logic, individual rights, and first principles. Let's start with the core flaw in the societal privilege argument. In the first part of the exchange, Congresswoman Plaskett tries to define white privilege not as silencing individuals, but as a vague societal advantage people supposedly receive simply because of their skin color. This is the classic evasive definition CRT advocates use when they're operating in formal settings: abstract, non-falsifiable, and impossible to pin down. But Ben immediately neutralizes it by drawing a crucial distinction. If you show him a specific, demonstrable instance of racism, a discriminatory policy, a concrete action, an overt act of prejudice, he's ready to fight it. He even says he would stand right next to her to do so, because that's something rational people can agree on and address. What he rejects, and rightly so, is the idea of white privilege floating out there in the ether. This vague, untestable claim that someone's skin color automatically grants them advantages, and therefore invalidates another person's experiences, is nothing more than an identity-based argument used to dismiss opposing viewpoints. It's a poison pill for real debate. And that's the key takeaway. The primary function of the concept of white privilege isn't to solve problems, it's to create an intellectual hierarchy where lived experience trumps reason. As Ben perfectly puts it, it's a cudgel, a club used to bludgeon opponents into silence. When Congresswoman Plaskett realizes her philosophical argument isn't landing, she pivots to a high-stakes gotcha question. She brings up a horrific hypothetical involving nooses and hateful messages, then asks whether Ben would consider it hate speech and whether he would stand next to the person responsible and fight for them. The trap is obvious: force him into appearing to defend clear malice and prejudice. But once again, Ben refuses to take the bait. He rejects the premise entirely. He clarifies that he would stand with the victim, not the perpetrator, and would fight the hate group responsible. He even notes that as someone who has personally faced anti-Semitic harassment, he has real skin in this game. From there, he pivots back to what actually matters: principle. He draws a sharp line between the government punishing a crime which it absolutely should and the government suppressing protected speech. His focus stays locked on the First Amendment and the preservation of rational political discourse. Ben refuses to be dragged into an emotional, identity-driven argument. Instead, he insists on discussing actions, policies, and individual rights. And that's exactly why exchanges like this matter. If you want to fix societal problems, you need specific, testable policies and demonstrable facts, not vague theories of unearned, unprovable privilege. Once again, principle beats political posturing.